Child, your instrument is so large. Welcome anew to Authentic Infidelity Narratives, where we present another enthralling tale of ardor and unanticipated bonds. If you delight in these salacious stories, don't neglect to follow our channel. I'm Eloisa, a 42-year-old stepmother who never envisioned I would discover myself in a predicament like this. My spouse, Edward, is a prosperous entrepreneur, perpetually attached to his device or engrossed in labor. While I value his commitment, it frequently abandons me feeling disregarded and solitary. As the days transformed into weeks, I detected myself yearning for fellowship and closeness, craving the affection that had progressively dissipated from our union. I frequently contemplated how I could reignite the spark in my existence. The evenings felt particularly desolate when I'd listened to Edward's strides reverberating through the residence as he withdrew to his study, leaving me in the hush of our formerly lively abode. I pined for the exhilaration of love, the warmth of a gentle embrace, and the thrill of being coveted. My musings meandered to my stepson Lucas, a comely 24-year-old who had lately returned home subsequent to concluding his education. Lucas had consistently been courteous and well-mannered, but there was an incontestable rapport between us. He had matured into a striking youth, and I caught myself sneaking peeks at him, my heart pounding whenever our gazes interlocked. I was aware it was improper, but the more I repelled the sentiments, the more powerful they grew. One afternoon, I resolved to alter my attire following a lengthy day of awaiting Edward's return. I was about to don a silken gown as I noticed my likeness in the looking-glass. I sighed, yearning for the epoch when I felt coveted and radiant. I proceeded to the bedchamber, where I could immerse myself in contemplations of what might transpire. I unfastened my brassiere and was about to slip on the gown when I heard the portal groan ajar. It was Lucas, coming back unforeseen. "Hello, Eloisa," he articulated nonchalantly, a luminous grin illuminating his visage as he entered. My heart hastened. I swiftly seized my gown to conceal myself, but it was futile. Lucas's eyes enlarged somewhat as he absorbed the vision of me. "Apologies, I didn't intend to disturb," he faltered, his stare lingering on me a moment excessively long. "It's all right," I stated, attempting to maintain composure. I was merely altering my garments. I could perceive a blush ascending my cheeks. We stood there in a tense silence, the atmosphere dense with unvoiced strain. I could discern a transition between us, an electric charge that was challenging to disregard. Lucas shifted his mass from one foot to the other, his eyes darting back to me as though he were pondering something in his mind. I should likely depart," he ultimately declared, retreating a step towards the exit. "Hold on," I summoned, my voice scarcely above a murmur. "You needn't depart. We can converse." He wavered, his gaze probing mine. The yearning simmering beneath the exterior felt tangible, and I recognized I had to seize an opportunity. "Lucas, I've been experiencing some solitude recently. It's arduous being here sans Edward's presence. I comprehend we haven't truly bonded as we could." "I understand," he responded, his tone hushed. "It's been odd with him being so preoccupied constantly." I inhaled deeply, feeling audacious. What if we expended some moments together, merely the two of us, to observe where it leads? To my astonishment, a grin spread across his countenance. "I'd appreciate that." As if pulled by an unseen power, I moved closer to him, the gap between us diminishing until we were merely inches apart. I could sense the heat emanating from his body. The attraction between us was palpable. "Lucas, I need to be candid. I've contemplated you far more than I ought to," I admitted, gazing into his eyes. "Me too," he acknowledged, stepping closer, a tense exhilaration apparent in his voice. In that instant, all my apprehensions dissolved, and I leaned in, seizing his lips with mine. The kiss was hesitant initially, but swiftly intensified, kindling a flame within me that I hadn't experienced in ages. His hands discovered their way to my waist, drawing me closer as we merged into one another. I ended the kiss, breathless and thrilled. "This is so incorrect," I whispered, my heart pounding. "Perhaps, but it feels so correct," he responded, his voice hoarse with yearning. Before I could ponder the repercussions, I drew him back into another kiss, my fingers entwining in his hair. The kiss swiftly grew more ardent, his hands traversing my back as I pressed against him. I could feel the warmth radiating from his body, and every touch sent tremors down my spine. As we separated, I gazed into his eyes, discerning the same blend of exhilaration and trepidation mirrored back at me. "Are we truly doing this?" I murmured, feeling breathless. "Yes," he stated resolutely, clutching my chest and pulling me closer. "I desire this, Eloisa. I've desired you for a long time." With those words, I felt emboldened. I stepped back slightly and grasped his hand, guiding him towards the bed. The moment felt unreal, yet I was prepared to embrace it. As we sat on the edge of the bed, I leaned in closer, our lips reuniting, more urgently this time. Lucas's hands wandered my body, investigating every curve as I yielded to his touch. I could feel the heat intensifying between us, igniting a blaze I hadn't experienced in years. My fingers traced along his jawline, and I could perceive the desire burning in his eyes. "Let's not restrain ourselves," I said breathlessly, feeling invigorated by my own audacity. With a nod, he leaned in again, kissing me profoundly. I could feel him pressing against me, his body hot and eager. My hands explored his chest, feeling the firm muscles beneath his shirt. I recognized I wanted more, and the notion exhilarated me. Gradually, I pushed him back onto the bed, straddling him as I kissed him with urgency. He gazed up at me, his eyes wide with astonishment and excitement. I could feel his heart racing beneath me, matching my own. "I never anticipated this," he breathed, his hands gripping my hips. "Neither did I replied, my voice low and seductive. "But it feels too wonderful to cease now." As we persisted in kissing, I could feel him responding to my every touch, our bodies moving in harmony. I began to glide my hands under his shirt, exploring his toned abdomen, feeling the warmth of his skin. He released a soft groan, and the sound sent shivers down my spine. "God, Eloisa, you're astonishing," he whispered, his hands moving to my back, pulling me closer as I ground against him. I cherished the way he looked at me, the desire in his eyes fueling my self-assurance. "I want to feel you," I whispered, my voice thick with longing. "Then let's not squander any more time," he said, his hands locating the hem of my robe, pulling it apart as I gasped at the sensation of being exposed to him. "You're stunning," he murmured, leaning in to kiss my collarbone, igniting a fire within me. I could feel the heat rising, and I allowed myself to succumb to the pleasure of the moment. His hands roamed over my body, igniting every nerve ending as he kissed down my neck, sending waves of pleasure coursing through me. I let out a soft moan, arching my back against him as he continued his trail of kisses. "More," I urged, my body craving his touch with newly discovered confidence. Lucas sat upright, his hands clutching my waist as he flipped us over, immobilizing me against the bed. His eyes twinkled with playfulness and longing as he leaned in for another kiss, seizing my lips with ardor. I could feel his weight pressing down on me, and every instant felt electrifying. I seized his instrument and was astonished by his magnitude. It was so substantial that I couldn't grasp it fully. He began moaning, and I craved it more. We lost ourselves in one another, the world outside dissolving as we delved into our desires. The chamber was filled with gentle murmurs and the sound of our bodies moving in unison. Each touch, each kiss was more inebriating than the last. As we entwined, I experienced a sense of liberation I hadn't felt in years. I yearned to traverse every inch of him, to lose myself in the moment. Our bodies moved in flawless synchronization, igniting a blaze that engulfed us both. Ultimately, as the passion subsided, we collapsed into a comfortable embrace, regaining our breath. I gazed into Lucas's eyes, feeling a sense of elation and exhilaration I hadn't experienced in so long. But just as I began to unwind, the doorbell chimed again, jolting me from my blissful state. "What was that?" I inquired, my heart pounding as the reality of our predicament washed over me. It's likely your spouse, Lucas stated, his eyes wide with alarm. Edward wasn't due home for hours, I exclaimed, hastily adjusting my robe. Swiftly, we must conceal ourselves, Lucas urged, glancing towards the door. We sprang up frantically, attempting to compose ourselves just as we managed to appear somewhat presentable. I heard Edward's voice emanating from the hallway. Eloisa, are you home? He called out, sounding jovial. Yeah, I'm in the bedroom, I responded, my heart racing as I glanced at Lucas, who appeared as flustered as I felt. Remain silent, I whispered urgently, and Lucas nodded, swiftly slipping into the closet just as Edward entered the room. Edward walked in with a smile on his face as he spotted me. I didn't anticipate you'd be home. How was your day? He asked, stepping closer. Just the usual, I replied, forcing a smile and striving to act as ordinary as possible. How was yours? Busy as always, he responded with a sigh. But I thought I'd take a respite and spend some time with you. I nodded, feeling a blend of guilt and exhilaration. I could still sense Lucas's presence lingering in the air, his warmth, and the thrill of our shared moments. I had to dismiss those thoughts as I attempted to engage with Edward, who seemed oblivious to the tension hovering between us. As the evening advanced, Edward and I settled onto the sofa, sharing casual conversation, but my mind kept drifting back to Lucas and the electric connection we had just shared. My heart raced each time I thought about it, igniting a fire within me that I couldn't disregard. A few days later, while Edward was out for another late-night meeting, I found myself alone at home again. My thoughts were consumed with the recollection of our last encounter. I had missed the thrill of being desired, of feeling alive. I decided to take a lengthy, relaxing bath to ease the tension, hoping it would help calm my racing thoughts. I lit a few candles and filled the tub with warm water, allowing the steam to envelop me as I soaked. My mind wandered back to Lucas, the way his hands explored my body, the passion in his kisses. It was intoxicating. I felt a rush of heat at the memory and knew I needed to see him again. Just then, I heard the soft sound of a knock at the door. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly wrapped a towel around myself before opening the door, revealing Lucas standing there with a mischievous grin on his face. Hey, he said, his eyes sparkling. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. Not at all, I replied, my heart racing at his unexpected arrival. Come in. As he stepped into the bathroom, I felt a rush of excitement at having him so close again. I was just taking a bath, I said shyly, trying to conceal my nerves. Looks inviting, he remarked, his gaze lingering on me as I leaned against the door frame. Mind if I join you? I vacillated for merely an instant, my heart pounding at the prospect of being so proximate to him again, but the exhilaration was too potent to withstand. Certainly, why not? In a flash, Lucas stepped into the bathroom, shutting the door behind him. The ambience felt electrified with expectation as I observed him slowly disrobe, my breath catching as he unveiled his sculpted physique. Every fiber of my being yearned to touch him, to investigate the warmth that emanated from him as he slid into the tub beside me. The warm water enveloped us, fashioning a cocoon of intimacy. We traded anxious glimpses before our lips clashed in a fervent kiss, the water splashing around us as I dissolved into him. His hands discovered my waist, drawing me nearer as I entwined my fingers in his hair. The kisses swiftly intensified, brimming with craving and ardor as we immersed ourselves in the moment. I could perceive the warmth of his body against mine, kindling a blaze that disseminated through me. You're even more stunning than I recall, Lucas murmured against my lips, his breath warm against my skin. I smiled, feeling complimented, and you're more alluring each time I see you. With fresh confidence, I nudged him back against the tub, straddling him as I pressed my body against his. The water surged around us, but I was engrossed in the sensation of his skin against mine. My fingers trailed down his chest, savoring the feel of his muscles under my touch. Rebecca, he breathed, his voice filled with yearning. You have no notion how much I've coveted this. Demonstrate it, I responded, my voice sultry as I leaned in for another kiss, this time more ardent. The world beyond dissolved as we probed each other, the water intermingling with our yearnings as our kisses grew more pressing. I could feel his hands wandering my body, tracing every contour as I lost myself in his caress. The thrill of being so close to him sent tremors down my spine, igniting every nerve ending. I leaned back slightly, permitting him to kiss down my neck, relishing the sensation of his lips against my skin. "God, Lucas," I gasped, my body arching toward him, craving more. With a low growl of desire, he cupped my face, his thumbs brushing over my cheeks as he pulled me in for another scorching kiss. I could feel the heat building between us, a powerful force that drew us closer together, urging us to explore more. The water around us became a haze as we entangled, lost in the heat of the moment. My hands explored his body, tracing over his shoulders and down his arms as he deepened our kiss, each movement igniting the passion between us. Abruptly, I felt a surge of audacity and pulled away slightly, gazing into his eyes. "Let's advance this further," I whispered, my heart racing at the thought. "Are you certain?" he inquired, his voice thick with desire. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life," I replied, my heart racing with anticipation. With that, we moved together, the warm water surrounding us as we embraced the heat of our desires. We pressed against each other, our bodies intertwined in the instant as ardor intensified, our breaths blended as we lost ourselves in the delight of being united. Our surroundings seemed to dissolve as we yielded to our cravings, investigating every inch of each other, sensing the warmth of our bond strengthen. I felt exhilarated, vivacious in a manner I hadn't encountered in years. But just as we commenced to unwind, the resonance of the front entrance reverberated through the residence, and we exchanged anxious looks. "Mark's returned," I proclaimed, alarm ascending within me. "Swiftly, we must depart," Lucas stated, clambering out of the tub. We both hastily toweled off and donned our attire, the strain tangible as we endeavored to render ourselves presentable just as I concluded arranging my hair. I discerned Edward's voice summon again. "Eloisa, I'm back," he bellowed. "We must conceal ourselves," Lucas urged, glancing toward the portal. I concurred, and we both darted into the closet, our hearts pounding as we listened to Edward enter the lavatory. The two of us stood in proximity within the obscurity, our breaths intermingling as we awaited the tension to abate. Edward commenced cleansing his hands at the basin, unaware of the turmoil that had recently transpired in his abode. "How was your day, Eloisa?" he inquired, his intonation nonchalant. "Merely unwinding," I responded, my heart throbbing in my chest as I exchanged a nervous glance with Lucas. Following a few tense moments, Edward concluded and exited the lavatory, permitting us to exhale a sigh of relief. "Wow, that was close," Lucas murmured, his eyes wide with exhilaration. "I'm aware, I can't believe we just—" I commenced, but before I could conclude, he inclined and kissed me tenderly, recalling the thrill we had just shared. "We can't desist now," he declared, his voice low with urgency. "This is merely the commencement." I sensed my heart racing anew, caught between the exhilaration of our clandestine affair and the actuality of my life with Edward. Yet, deep within, I recognized that whatever was transpiring between Lucas and me was something I couldn't withstand. I was prepared to embrace this novel chapter, wherever it might guide us. As we emerged from the closet, the tension lingered in the atmosphere, charged with potential. We both comprehended that our existences would never be identical again. The thrill of the prohibited persisted, and I was eager to delve deeper into this unanticipated romance, regardless of the consequences.